toddler at the dawning of the dead. Far too young for dropping out, I got no 60s cred. Still, I did meet Jerry and I played his wolf guitar. Hey, it's Jeffrey Pepper Rogers back with another episode of Guitar Sessions. Today's topic, how to steal a chord progression. And yes, it's okay to say that out loud because nobody really owns a chord progression. Everybody uses the same basic building blocks in songs. And everybody does this all the time, whether consciously or not. We hear a chord progression we like and we emulate it and create something new. So in this lesson, I'm going to just show some ways to steal from the chord progressions of other songs and generate your own song ideas. And I'm going to use the example of my own song called Hippie Hair for the first time, which you heard up at the top of this lesson, in which I actually stole the progression from two well-known songs. So I'll talk about that along the way here. So as with all the episodes of Guitar Sessions, you can find charts and downloads related to this over on Patreon. So let's dig in. So the first song I had in mind when I was writing Hippie Hair for the first time was this one. I pulled into Nazareth, I was feeling about a half past dead. So The Wait by the band, something about that groove was just in my head when I started working on my song. So here it is in the key of A, C sharp minor, D, and A. So I'm just going to work with that one little piece of it. So if you're familiar with thinking about chord progressions by number, this is a 1, 3, 4, 1. So the 3 chord is minor, and the 1 and 4 are major. So it is super important and useful to learn progressions by number like this so that you understand the relationship between the chords and how that relationship exists in any key. And there are lessons, detailed lessons about this on my website and also in the book, The Complete Singer-Songwriter. And over on Patreon, along with the downloads from this lesson, you'll find downloadable charts of the diatonic chords. That means the chords that naturally occur in the key by number. So when you understand chord progressions by number, you have kind of unlocked the concept that allows you to easily take what you hear in one song in one key and apply it to a different key. So 1, 3, 4, 1. That was what we started with in the key of A. So let me try that in some other keys. Try it in G. I pulled into Nazareth, I was feeling about a half past dead. So there's G is our 1, B minor is our 3, C is our 4, and G is our 1. Same relationships in the key of G. Let's try it in D. I pulled into Nazareth, I was feeling about a half past dead. There's our 1, 3, 4, 1. Let's go to C. I pulled into Nazareth, I was feeling about a half past dead. 1, 3, 4, 1. One more, let's just do E. I pulled into Nazareth, I was feeling about a half past dead. So E is our 1, G sharp minor is our 3, A is our 4, and E is our 1 again. So if you hear a set of changes in a song that you like and you want to try using in another way, here are some things that you can do, especially armed with this knowledge about the chord progression by number. You can try it in a different key. Of course, you can always throw a capo on to change the key, but really great to be able to, without using a capo, play chords with the same relationships in another key in the same position on the guitar as I just did there. So you can take a progression, steal it, put it in a different key that'll make it sound different often right off the bat. Number 2, you could just change the groove of the song. I started with, if I That's just a few ways, just off the top of my head, to kind of change the groove and the feel, even without changing the key. So that's another way that you can take a familiar progression, change it so it doesn't sound familiar anymore. Another thing is just to change how long you hold each chord. I just extended those chords a little bit, and it started to sound like something else already. That's another idea. Try taking a chord progression and playing it in reverse. So we started off like this. Let's try it backwards. Different. These are all just ways of taking something familiar and making it less so, but using the underlying idea of it. And finally, one more thing you can do to a progression from another song is just substitute some chords in it. And there's another episode in this series that goes into some simple chord substitutions, so you might want to check that out. But when I was working on Hippie Hair, to come back to my song there, so one thing that I did is I took the feel of that progression, I put it in a different key. So I actually played it using D shapes. The studio recording of that, I'm actually capoed up at the 3rd fret, but just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to play it down here. I was using D shapes, but I also made some substitutions. So if I were to play the weight chord progression in D, it would be D, F sharp minor, G, D. So here's what I did. D, there's an F sharp 7, an E minor, which is the 2 chord, and A, which is the 5. So here's the weight, and here's my song. So I actually substituted 3 of those chords, but you can hear the feel is similar. E minor and A are both diatonic chords, so those are found in that key of D naturally. That F sharp 7, which is a major chord, is not a diatonic chord. That means that it's got notes in it that are not in that D major scale. So that's a chord that kind of pops a little bit. So that's something that gives a little extra juice to the progression, that chord. Instead of the F sharp minor, which would be the diatonic chord, I'm using the major, the dominant. It's the 7th chord. So that's another thing, again, you can dig into in that other lesson about chord substitutions, is how you can take a diatonic minor chord and play a major instead, and often add a lot of cool flavor to a chord progression. But in any case, this little piece of those 4 chords there is one of the foundations of my song, which originated in the weight. So, but there's one other song that I stole from in writing Hippie Hair, and appropriately enough, the title is Let It Grow. It's an old Eric Clapton song that somehow popped into my head. I don't know if it was because of the title or for some other reason, but it's got this change in it. B minor. So that's B minor, F sharp, D to E. And then he continues on. So it's like standing at the crossroads, trying to read the signs to tell me which way I can go to find the answer. Continues on like that. But that little piece of it somehow popped into my head. Let it grow. And mine. So in that case, I only substituted one chord. I put in an A chord in place of the D in that original one, and I also used some inversions of those chords, which actually changed the sound of the progression a little bit too. But just again, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to play it just like this here. I use drop D tuning, use some inversions, so there's some other ways that I kind of enhanced the sound of that progression. But the basic idea came from Let It Grow. And one thing I should mention about that is Let It Grow is actually in the key of B minor, and then it modulates into the key of B major in the chorus, which is interesting. But my song is in, again, disregarding the capo that I use, my song is in the key of D. So those two progressions are a little different in the context of those songs. That piece from Let It Grow is one that starts on the one chord because it's in the key of B minor. But in my song, that's the one chord is a D, and so the B minor is a 6 chord. So the relationships of those chords in the key are a little different, but the movement of that progression is really very similar. And that gave me that other idea, which was one of the other really important kind of chord ideas that I used in the song. So the question about this, would anyone ever know? Would anybody listen to my song and think, oh, that's like The Weight, or that was taken from Let It Grow? I don't know. Maybe they would now that I'm getting here on video and announcing it to everybody. But it's highly unlikely just listening to the song. I mean, maybe there's a feel that's reminiscent of a certain era or another song, and that's cool. My song is actually full of references to older music, and which was one of the reasons why it was fun to explicitly borrow some chord progressions in the way that I did here. But it's unlikely that somebody would think, oh, that's just derivative of this other thing. I don't think they would do that, and hopefully they just feel a good progression, a good groove, and just go with it. So really the moral of this little lesson for today is if you hear a chord progression that you love, go in there, figure it out, ideally by number, take it, mess with it, try it in a different key, mess around with it in the ways that I've been talking about. Make it your own so that you're not really feeling like you're covering that song anymore, but that you're doing something new. So you make it your own, you create something with it, and it's a great way to learn, and it's a great way to get ideas for songs. And then you can write something that somebody else can steal from you. So that's how it goes. Anyway, hope you find some ideas in here you can use and steal. Once again, I'm Jeffrey Pepper Rogers, and thanks for watching.